how is it that Zuckerberg was able to put in, nearly $500 million into the last election? Because I promise you, had I put in, $100,000 into some I'm just a good government guy and I'm trying to help people vote. I mean, look, most of us, Sarah, would have been hung up on that. And somehow Zuckerberg just skated. And so this is, as we build out True Social, we're taking all of this into mind, knowing that I think ultimately the American people will select freedom over tyranny. I think they don't appreciate that $500 million gets thrown in outside of all the federal elections monitoring, and nothing happens when they put in $500 million. If we can just do that, why can't some of the big corporations that lean Republican, why can't they just put in $500 million to help Republican causes? I mean, we've had laws on the books, many that I worked on in Congress for so many years. We don't know how this happened.
What is truth? Truth Social. How to get started? Why? And now it's gone public. DJT. And it went public in a big way with a lot of support from the American people. And this is very, very important because truth didn't just happen. It just wasn't because Donald Trump and Devin Nunes decided, hey, you know what? We're going to start this media company for fun or for money. It started because corporations, not just government bureaucracies being weaponized, but corporations were working with the left and weaponizing themselves against Americans who had a different point of view, a different narrative, a different belief. Conservatives who spoke out against the direction that this radical left has taken. I mean, it's in hyperdrive, folks. You know it and I know it. You know it every time you turn on your television or, pick up a magazine or watch a children's show. You realize that conservative values and American values have pretty much been stomped on and thrown out a window. There is something happening, and you and I both know it, that is so perverse that parents are now standing in front of school boards, picking up books that are in their children's elementary schools and reading out of those books pages that should be XXX rated and that I think only a sick person would really want to read, because it's far beyond just sex or, descriptions of things that before I think would have shocked our parents. But now it's so far beyond that. I can't even talk about it on this podcast. I don't want to. All you have to do is go online and look at it. But it wasn't just about what's happening on a cultural level. It's about what's happening on a political level. I mean, I remember just feeling like when we were breaking stories back in 2017, 2016, 17, 18, John Solomon and I, and when we were breaking these major stories on the Russia hoax, it was like the FBI, along with Jack Dorsey, along with Facebook and everybody else who was supporting Hillary Rodham Clinton, who is just nothing more than an opportunist and extremist herself, like a tool, literally a tool from the USSR. That's what I call her. She's a fool too, because she doesn't do it for ideological reasons. You could see she did it, her and her husband, for money. Just look at how much they make. That $500,000 that Bill Clinton took for making a speech in Russia for a bank in Russia that was basically run and is run by the FSB, which is just a new child of the KGB. And then they turn around and try to say that Trump is actually the bad guy. But do you remember during that time, it's about truth now. Do you remember during that time, the algorithms, the shadow banning, the downplaying? We couldn't reach audiences. People were literally removed. News agencies like the New York Post literally removed for telling the truth. Remember Miranda Devine talking about the Hunter Biden laptop? Remember the 50 plus intelligence officers and personnel and leaders that signed on to a letter that said, hey, guess what, America? You are being lied to. This Hunter Biden laptop isn't his. It's Russian disinformation. It was all lies. They are the disinformation group. They blame Russia. Yes, Russia is full of disinformation. We've known that. The KGB was famous for it. The KGB was famous for it. And also the FSB, the new under Vladimir Putin, we know that. But that does not exonerate the United States government. Not what we stand for, not our Constitution, not our Bill of Rights. That is real. That is so real. It is so tangible only if we're willing to fight for it. It's the same reason Rosemary Collyer, who was with the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, went after the Obama administration when he was leaving office, and he sent people from his National Security Council to go talk to the courts because guess what? President Obama had expanded his spying in the United States. Oh yeah, so much so that Obama was able to get his FBI and his intelligence agencies to infiltrate conversations, let's say with a priest, let's say with a doctor, with a lawyer, private and privileged conversations that should be protected by the Fourth Amendment. But they were not. They were not. She even said to them, she chided them. She said, this is absolutely trampling of the Fourth Amendment of the United States. But who's going to hold who accountable? How do we hold anyone accountable? We haven't. We haven't. The only person that this weaponized bureaucracy is set on going after is President Donald Trump. And you should ask yourself why. Even if you don't like President Trump, why is the system so intent on destroying a man who all he wants to do, and I have interviewed him in the past, and I know so many people around him, and I know that they lied about him. So they lied about him. They're not just going after him on truths. They're going after him on complete and utter lies. Why are they so intent on destroying him? Because it's not about him. It's about what he is going to be able to expose. It's about you. It's about you. It's about all of your privacy, your life being exposed like nothing we have ever seen before. They don't want you to know about that. They don't want you to understand that. They don't want you to wake up and see that. Because it makes everything a lie. Because everything that they are doing, and they are just feeding off of your tax dollars, is a lie. That's what they've done. They're coming after us. And believe me, it's going to get far worse. We are being set up. We are being set up. I was shadow banned. Do you guys remember I talked about this before when Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch was spying on all of the people that were talking about exposing Ukraine and what was happening with the Bidens and with Hunter Biden. It was me. It was John Solomon. It was Dan Bongino. It was Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Sebastian Gorka. I can go on and on. And we know we were being spied on. Why? Because Judicial Watch found the records. And Judicial Watch had a whistleblower. Truth was born out of that. Truth. And it's such an important name because it's everything. You know, I posted a story today. It was in the Chronicle, the Houston Chronicle, which is normally to the left. And it said something to the effect of the headline, you know, Texas Republicans are turning the Hispanic vote in their direction. It's not about Hispanics, you know, just all of a sudden, oh, okay, well, we're going to be Republican now. It's about truth. It's about when you give people the truth, when you hear the truth, when you see the truth, you can make informed decisions that are better for you and your family. But when you're being lied to, and remember, Senator Rand Paul said it very well. He's like, hey, why are we going to give the United States government the authority to oversee disinformation? Remember when they tried to set up the disinformation group to, you know, basically monitor all social media corporations and make sure that they were telling the truth? Why would we give a government that is like the purveyor of disinformation power over us and our information? Why would we? It's the same reason why Elon Musk bought out Twitter, took over X. It is the reason why Donald J. Trump, Devin Nunes started Truth. But how do we keep that going? How do these platforms grow in a nation where the government has seized power through information technology? If you think, and I tweeted about this as well, if you think that anything you do on the internet is private, my God, you are in for a rude awakening. Everything you do on the internet, doesn't matter if you hit privacy search, doesn't matter what you do. Everything you do, everything you talk about, everything you say, every text message you send, every email you write is accessible. It is. It's accessible. I tweeted about it years ago when I was at the Blaze. I interviewed Michael Hayden. He was former head of the National Security Agency, and he worked at the CIA. And he said, any American who believes, or any person in the world that believes that they have privacy on the internet is sadly mistaken. They are just fooling themselves. And that's a fact. And that's pretty scary. I know it is. Some of you are probably going, oh my gosh, I got to delete it. Too late. Too late. And this isn't just about committing crime. I'm not talking about committing crimes. I'm talking about the fact that on January 6th, Bank of America was voluntarily turning over to the FBI a list of customers who made transactions in days all around there on January 6th, giving them who purchased items in the DC area. And others accessed information. You didn't even have to be participating. This is like something out of 1984. I have a very special guest on the show today that is going to talk about the exciting news that Truth has gone public. I have the CEO of the Trump Media and Technology Group on, and that is Devin Nunes, none other than Devin Nunes, who, by the way, if you all remember, was the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. And he is doing incredible work fighting for our nation in the corporate world. And he's going to dive into the future of social media and what that means for the conversation ahead of the 2024 election. You do not want to go anywhere, folks. I'm grateful to have back on the show Devin Nunes. He is the CEO of Trump Media and Technology Group, DJT. While serving in Congress, he was Chairman Nunes, and he represented California's 22nd District and was the chair of the House Intelligence Committee, and a good friend and a true patriot. Thank you, Devin, for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Well, Sara, it's great to be with you as always, and love your work. You were always great over the whether it was the Russia hoax or all the work you're doing now, and of course, we love you so much because you're on Truth Social all the time, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, I love Truth Social, and I'm so excited right now. I'm very, very excited that Truth Social went public late last month and has had a ton of initial success. Let's talk a little bit about that before we get into the nitty gritty. I mean, this has been, one of the biggest projects. I think when you left Congress and you took this on, this was a huge challenge for you. I mean, you put a lot on the line because you truly believe in our freedom, our ability to communicate with one another. And we were not seeing that back then on Twitter, especially with Jack
Yeah.
Dorsey. I wanted to remind people of why all of this happened.
Well, and don't forget, it wasn't me or Donald Trump that caused all this to happen.
Right.
It was the big tech companies that caused this to happen. So we have them to thank for the creation of this company, because Donald Trump was kicked off of every platform. Sara, I know you're aware of this, but folks like myself that were calling out the left and calling the Russia hoax, and whether it was fighting the Ukraine impeachment hoax, all of us that were involved in that were being what's called shadow banned. And it was well documented, and I'm sure you were also shadow banned. I'm quite sure.
Absolutely.
So I jokingly say that Donald Trump didn't need a new company, and I didn't need a new job, but the tyranny that was occurring back in 2017, 18, 19, 20, all through 2021 had to come to an end. And that's why I left Congress when President Trump announced that he was going to go create his own social media company so that he could have a voice. I volunteered to go and do this and create this. And we're not, True Social is just, we're trying to take the best of Twitter, the best of Facebook, the best of Instagram, TikTok, and even Reddit, and put it all into one app. That's what we're known for. It's our kind of signature platform. It's our gateway to the world. But the goal here is that, and I think what a lot of people don't realize is that, and a lot of the naysayers also that said this could never be done, because when we set out to do this, we didn't want to be in a situation like the old company Parler that was working with some 2-3 dozen American companies, big tech companies, that shut them down completely and ruined a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. We never wanted to be in that position. They said it couldn't be done. We did this with very little capital. It was built, in record time, and no one's been able to shut us down. And I think that's the key, is that Truth Social stands on this wide open internet that can't be shut down by the big tech companies. And we're not stopping there. So it's just like, for example, that what we've discussed publicly is that, we've been testing streaming. As a matter of fact, there's, thousands, tens of thousands of people out there that have been helping us test it, are people that use the platform a lot. Some of you may be beyond that. But what we're doing is we're trying to figure out what happens when, say, a kind of your traditional TV station and we've seen this a lot of times, where they cancel a channel. We saw it with One American News. We've seen it with Newsmax. We see it with Real America's Voice, where the big old traditional companies don't let them be on their platform. So we're focused on, how do you deliver for people that get canceled, specifically in the kind of that area of news, information, religion, and what about when you have a documentary that the Netflixes of the world and Amazon Primes of the world, that they won't let that documentary be seen. These are all areas that we're focused on to make sure that we, I joke, we're just trying to build essentially our own internet superhighway. Remember that term from a long time ago?
Yeah.
That's what we're building here. And look, it's going to last forever. And I've told President Trump this, is that, this is a lasting legacy that the president will leave for the American people and people all around the world, because as we are open globally, and we're hoping to make all of the products that we work on in the future, whether it's streaming or other products, we will have a global footprint is the goal.
I was thinking back to an interview, and I tweeted about it earlier today, or I posted it earlier today. And we'll talk a little bit about how Truth, Rumble, Elon's purchase of X, how free speech and our ability to express ourselves is becoming like a center point of our First Amendment rights. But I was thinking earlier today about an interview that I did years ago when I was at the Blaze with Michael Hayden. He was the former director of the NSA. And I remember him saying to me one time when I said about, the internet and people were concerned about privacy. And he said directly to me, you know what, Sara, if for anyone who believes that they have privacy on the internet, they're just basically fooling themselves. They're fooling themselves. There is no more real privacy on the internet. And he said that on the record. And, this is somebody who, he was part of the NSA, then he went on to the CIA. And I had interviewed a lot of the CIA directors. Believe it or not, I interviewed all of them from the time I started at the Washington Times, except Mike Pompeo, who I know. I just never got a chance to do my interview with him. But I interviewed Petraeus, I interviewed Hayden, I interviewed, the whole gamut of them. And I was kind of like taken back. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And I wanted to ask you this because that was something you and I talked about at one point in time, because the FISA was very important, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, as far as like giving our intelligence agencies, the FBI and others, the tools that they need to be able to track and trace, possible adversaries of the United States or terrorists. How have you changed in the thinking of that? Patriot Act all the way forward, since we've realized how the government has been weaponizing the system and how even corporations have been working in conjunction with the government agencies to weaponize systems against the American people and their freedom of speech. Has your change?
Look, I think this is it's become a public issue in the public arena now, because people are finally figuring out what we knew a decade ago, which is that a company like TikTok that has a tremendous I think conflict with the Chinese Communist Party, how dangerous that can be used by a government to push out propaganda, and I think create a lot of destructive forces within our society. President Trump, actually had the TikTok issue on a trajectory to get that owned, so that we didn't have to be shut down.
Right.
He was working with private companies in the U.S. to figure out a way that we could figure out so that TikTok could stay up and going. But look, he points out, and I think, and you've pointed this out, the obvious that is, well, wait a second here. It's not just TikTok. Yeah, big concern. China's a big problem. You and I both know it. Probably all your listeners know it. But what about the Facebooks of the world, the Metas of the world, Twitters of the world? How is it that Zuckerberg was able to put in nearly $500 million into the last election? Because I promise you, had I put in $100,000 into some I'm just a good government guy and I'm trying to help people vote. Look, most of us, Sara, would have been hung up on that. And somehow Zuckerberg just skated. And so this is, as we build out True Social, we're taking all of this into mind, knowing that I think ultimately the American people will select freedom over tyranny. I think they don't appreciate that $500 million gets thrown in outside of all the federal elections monitoring, and nothing happens when they put in $500 million. If we can just do that, why can't some of the big corporations that lean Republican? Why can't they just put in $500 million to help Republican causes? We've had laws on the books, many that I worked on in Congress for so many years. We don't know how this happened.
Well, one side gets away with it, and the other side, apparently, it comes under the thumb, and a very powerful thumb of a politicized bureaucracy that is working hand in hand with the Democrats and with the left. And I don't even think it's like it used to be. Okay, all is fair in love and war. Politics is wild and crazy, but we're seeing something now that we've never seen before. We're seeing the weaponization of our bureaucracy to such an extent that it's actually almost terrifying. People compare it to 1984. How do the American people trust in our government if there's so much interference in not only in our elections, but in our ability to freely speak? And, when the American people are saying, well, I'm afraid to say that because I'm afraid that the FBI might be listening to me and that me, saying this could potentially be a problem. That is a huge problem in a democracy and in a republic.
Yeah, and I think, look, you have the money that these big tech tyrants have put into our elections and somehow circumvented all the rules that most of us have to play by.
Right.
Secondly, there's multiple reports out there about how people are being censored. Conservative or Republican content is being censored. Or even sometimes, in some cases, information that has nothing to do with conservative or socialist policies. But I don't have to tell you. You all know about it. But as it relates to the COVID crisis and everything that happened there, whether it's vaccines or what have you, all of that was also censored.
Right.
And then also,
how are those challenges though for truth? How are those challenges for truth? Like, what are the biggest challenges you're going to be up against now that you've gone public?
Yeah, these are really the opportunities, and just kind of finally putting on it. When you get onto these platforms, they're taking all of your data. They're using algorithms to feed you what they want to feed you. And so if you're even Twitter, Twitter, the president and I supported Twitter, Elon Musk taking over Twitter, but you're familiar with it. They have this weird community notes issue and fact checkers, and then you've got the media groups that are also fact checkers. And look, the more they do it, the better it is for us, because that plays into why you need an open, free internet, obviously following the laws. But that's the space that True Social is designed to get into. So the more people want to censor, the more they want to have fake fact checkers, the more they want to try to circumvent rules, the more information that they want to try to, and data that they want to mine from people. True Social, we're not going to do that. We're simply just a home that if Sarah Carter gets canceled and they won't let her put out her podcast, say on YouTube, okay, which, by the way, I'm not sure you've ever been canceled or shadow banned.
I pretty much am. I can't make any money on YouTube. YouTube's a joke. It's like they don't do nothing for me.
Yeah, and until Rumble, there was no alternative. I mean, that was how I had the same problem with my video podcast that I was doing back in the day, and that's how I stumbled into Rumble, because I just needed a video player that would work. And so having like other key companies out there like Rumble, we've really beta tested for them their cloud. That now we were beta testing their cloud 2 years ago. Now they've launched that cloud. It's open to the whole world now, right? We were involved in that. The Rumble advertising syncer.
Talk about that, because I only have a few minutes with you, but you're really planning on growing Truth. I want people to understand that Truth is an awesome platform. This is a great way to be able to freely speak your mind. It is an incredible platform. You're doing things to it all the time, but you're looking at expanding this far beyond Truth. I mean, this is an entertainment corporation. It's going to be all encompassing, right?
Yeah, I think the way to look at it is that we're the simplest way to put it is that, and we say this all the time. It's about your voice, and it's ultimately about your freedom, and we're building that entire ecosystem so that you cannot be shut down. So it's really an investment in your future, in making sure that your constitutional, your First Amendment rights are protected. That's the company that we're building, and we're forging strong partnerships with other companies who are building that, so that we're not reliant on any of these tech companies that are out there. And
are there any hints of things that we should be expecting in the future?
Yeah, well, I think the big one, is the one that we've disclosed, publicly, that we've been developing the streaming technology. Like I said, there's plenty of people that are on it, that are looking at it, and it's great to have users from True Social that we're able to beta test with this type of streaming technology. Look, I think it's going to be state of the art. It's going to be revolutionary. It's for us to have our own delivery mechanism for canceled documentaries, to canceled TV shows, to canceled podcasts is all going to be critically important. So, but like I said, the goal is, and the mission of our company is, to make sure that we build out that entire ecosystem. That's what we're focused on every day. And I think the good news is that, despite the fake news, as you know, is going to attack us, multiple times a day. But what they don't like, and you'll never hear reported, we built Truth Social as an R&D company for very little money. We now are publicly traded. We have, I think, roughly 400,000 or more shareholders. And what you won't ever see out there, because the fake news chooses to run their own narratives, that is that we have no debt and over $200 million in the bank. And Truth Social is very lean, very efficient. And so as we build out the features on Truth Social that we've already talked about, we'll look for other areas to expand on. And that most kind of first on the list is this streaming technology.
This administration wants you taxed to the brink under the thumb of the IRS and controlled with a digital dollar. That's why thousands of hardworking, patriotic Americans, including myself, are turning to Goldco. This is about diversifying, folks. This is about diversifying and putting your money where it's safe. Don't just trust me. Do the research yourself. You'll see for yourself how great Goldco is. Listen to this current offer. Get a free 2024 Gold Kit and learn how to possibly get $10,000 in bonus silver as a listener of this show. They've helped people like you and me place over $3.5 billion in gold and silver. That's just amazing. And thank you, Goldco, for being a sponsor of the Sarah Carter Show. Protect your family's financial future and freedom. Get started today at SarahSaraLikesGold.com. Get your free gold kit from Goldco and learn how to get $10,000 in bonus silver. Sarah, SarahLikesGold.com. That's Sarah, SarahLikesGold.com. The last question is, we have 7 months left. This probably and really is one of the most important elections right now of our lifetime. We have seen a complete, utter change in America under this administration that is very dangerous. And there are a lot of concerns. What is your advice to the listeners right now, to everybody out there? I know all of you are excited to have Devin here. What would your advice be to them about moving forward and getting our nation back on track? A lot of people are concerned about the election. They're worried.
Yeah, look, I don't want to just be constantly promoting Truth Social, but the reality is, imagine a world and over the next 7 months where we didn't have Truth Social, and if we didn't have a Rumble, which we didn't really have back in 2020. At that time, Parler was at its nascent stage. Rumble had just begun. Of course, Parler later gets destroyed by these big tech companies. Rumble, thankfully, was able to survive. So and look, we're not here for Republicans. We're not just here for Donald Trump. It just happened to be that we were the ones who got canceled. We exist because of these tech tyrants. And in spite of them, we've been able to create this company. And I think over the course of the next 7 months, we're going to continue to grow. And you'll be surprised. There will be independents and Democrats. And I think you're already seeing it. You're already seeing it where they'll have to come to places like Truth Social because they have no other place to go. Because if you get on the wrong side of the left and of the Biden administration, you're going to get canceled too. I think that's why you've seen some of these other candidates that are out there running that are, basically left wing. They've had to resort to companies like Rumble to get their message out. Yeah, I think you see a lot of and so Truth Social obviously will take all of those. Anybody who wants to join Truth Social, despite the fake news that's out there, the Biden campaign was forced to join Truth Social. What were they going to do? They had no way to try to respond to Donald Trump. You've seen the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, he joined Truth Social. So I think you're going to continue to see that because we have such a loyal user base. We're very family friendly. We don't tolerate any type of, or we try not to. Of course, there's always bots and things that get on there. But look, we keep it clean, and I like to say I want it to be something that that my family and people that I know. That Truth Social is a place that is, a very friendly environment, and you don't have that kind of toxic environment that you see on many of the other platforms. So it's moving forward. I think that's a real comparative advantage that we have. That is this this commitment to free speech and a commitment to try to, keep things as clean as possible at the same time, respecting people's right to free speech.
I think that's a very important message. And I think what you said about it not being just Democrat versus Republican, this is about Americans versus a Marxist ideology. I mean, we've got to get to a point where we have that freedom to debate openly once again. And I think Truth Social is where it's at. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I can't wait to see how far this company grows and expands and becomes just a part of saving this beautiful nation and our principles and our values. Thank you so much, Devin, for being on the show. I hope you come again very soon. I'm so excited. I look forward to seeing you very soon in Florida. I'm excited about Truth Social, and there's a big event happening this month, and I'm excited about that and talking to everyone. And I'm excited about being a part of that future growth. So we have a lot to talk about. I'd like to be more involved with Truth Social and Rumble, and looking forward to hearing more about that in the future. Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot, Sarah. Great to be with you. And we'll see you next week.
You got it. See you next week. First, I want to say thank you so much to Devin for coming on the Sarah Carter Show. I can't wait to get you back on, Devin. You are always welcome on this show. Next time, I'm definitely going to talk about all the national security threats we are facing during this election year. I think that is vitally important for all of you out there as well. Be prepared, be prepared. Like I said at the top of the show, they are setting us up. They being these Democrats, the Biden administration, and these radical Marxists in our government. They have left the border wide open. And they don't care. And there are people all over this country that have not been properly vetted, and people that are committing crimes, and people that are running around our country with no intention of ever really being an American, with no love for this nation at all. Some yes, and others no. That's just the reality. Not every immigrant or illegal alien is like all about coming to America for a better life. Some of them are coming here to do harm, intentional harm. We're going to be talking about that on future podcasts. And before I let you go, I want to tell you really quick about how crazy, I feel this administration has been. And by the way, so many of our companies that have fallen prey to this horrible cycle of lies and doing things to our children to confuse them. I just have to bring this up because Vice President Kamala, and by the way, in Spanish, Kamala means the worst, Harris, tweeted or posted on X on Easter Sunday. I mean, this really incredible post that just, I think, sums up what this administration is all about. And here it goes. Every person in our nation must have the freedom to be their true self and to live free from hate. On Transgender Day of Visibility, this is on Easter, I say to all trans and non-binary people, we see you, we love you, we will never stop fighting for you. Listen, Kamala Harris, there are Christians on a day like Easter all over the world that are being persecuted. Look at Pakistan, look at Syria, go up to the north of Syria. Let's be appropriate, but they can't be appropriate. Why? Because they are on a mission, folks. They are on a mission to divide our nation, to destroy our cultural values. They want to destroy organized religion. They don't want you to have that. Remember, during COVID, that was one of the first things. We got to shut down the churches. Can't go to church. We might spread COVID, even if it's outdoors. I want you to realize what is really happening here. You and I together have to fight this fight. You and I together have to support companies like Truth. We have to stand up to these lawless lawmakers, these Marxist radicals that are trying to change our country, because I promise you, if you don't, we will lose this country forever. We have 7 months to get our crap together. We have 7 months to get out there and do the right thing. We got 7 months to get this nation back on track. Folks, let's work together. Let's stand together. Let's be a nation to be proud of. Let's be a nation that prays, that fights for justice and fights for the principles of our founding father. Again, thank you, Devin, for being on the show. I hope you come back. Please make sure you're subscribed to the Sara Carter Show on your favorite podcast app. It helps us keep the show free, and it really gives us a boost in our algorithm. If you're watching on Rumble or YouTube, give us a like and a follow as well. Thank you so much. Follow me on Truth at Sara Carter Official, on X at Sara Carter DC, and on Instagram at SCarterDC. God bless you. God bless our great nation. And God bless the great state of Texas.